Welcome, everyone, back to this episode of Smarter Sourcing. My name is John Pavia, and today we are joined by Bayles, Senior Vice President for Global Supply Chain and GPOs at Aramark. Thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, John.
Where are you speaking to us from today? Are you down in Pennsylvania?
Normally, I am in Philadelphia when I'm not traveling to see clients or business locations. But today I'm actually calling from Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. I'm on vacation.
Oh, I'm sorry that had to make you do this during your vacation. I mean, so Aramark it's a behemoth. I've known Aramark for as long as I've been in business, a leading provider of facility management, food service, uniform services throughout so many different areas of sports, entertainment, business, hospitality. And I think you said before we came on the air, hospitality sort of runs through the thread of everything that Aramark does. And that's near and dear to my heart because my mother was in the restaurant business. And so it's always about the customer experience. And I'm reading about your background, even in sourcing, procurement, and supply chain. I liked your comments about it's still about serving the customer.
Absolutely. It's the most important thing is what the client needs. And hospitality just runs in the blood of everybody at Aramark and our GPOs like Avendra, CPS, HIPSI. It's all about serving the client in the best way possible.
So as I was preparing for this, I was thinking, I do know, it's one of these things with these podcasts, you don't know who's listening, and sometimes I'm amazed by the emails I'll get or messages, but it's mostly, sourcing, procurement people, supply chain people. And I was, looking at your background and how you came to this position that you're at now, because what I thought was interesting was the time you spent on strategy and strategic initiatives at Aramark, and now leading into what you guys have done with your captive GPOs that you have. So there's so many different directions I think this can go in, but where I want to start is back at Lehigh, because you went to Lehigh University. I didn't tell you this before we came on the air, but my 29-year-old daughter went to Lehigh, and my 21-year-old daughter will be a senior this year at Lehigh. So you're a Lehigh grad. And when you're at Lehigh I think you graduated with an engineering degree, correct?
Correct.
But was sourcing, procurement, supply chain part of what you, as you're sitting around the library thinking about what you wanted to do with your life? Was that what you were thinking about back then?
Not at all. Lehigh was a great experience. I really do credit them for helping me come out with a degree that allowed me to think broadly, solve any problem. That's what they taught us in engineering school, is that you won't know how to solve a specific problem when it's presented to you, but we'll show you how to get to the answer. And I love that, because then it means no matter what it is, you just put one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, and you can figure it out. And that's the greatest thing that Lehigh taught me. And it was also just a really fun experience. So I hope your daughters had similar experiences, because I just really loved it there.
They've had a great experience, both of them. And I just can't believe when I went to college, and I wonder what it was like for you, but at Lehigh, which I've found to be a very social university, there seems to be every day of the week, there's a reason to have some kind of party. Or at least that's what my daughters will tell me, that there's always a theme party somewhere. And I'm like, it's a Tuesday.
I mean, that is probably true. That's one of the reasons I loved Lehigh so much, not just a great education, great professors, but also the social scene, quite active. And we just really had a lot of fun along the way while we were earning our degree. And it did prepare me. I did go to get my graduate degree from the Wharton School at Penn as well afterward. And I credit Lehigh with giving me the foundation that really made that successful. So a lot of thanks and appreciation to my colleagues at Lehigh. But yeah, no, I didn't think at all, oh, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing 30 years from now, because it actually has been longer than that, which shocks even me.
Oh.
But it was more around, I love solving problems. I love difficult situations that required, extensive analysis. And that's how the career unfolded. And also I had something that a lot of the engineers didn't, the ability to communicate. So that has always threaded through part of my career as well.
So let's stick with that. I was planning on going somewhere else, but your comment about the ability to communicate, which I know maybe I sound like a dad, but I'm worried that this generation right now is that good communication skills is sort of a lost art now. and there's not enough emphasis put on it. So when you said that you had the ability to communicate, was that a roundabout way of saying a lot of people with engineering degrees don't communicate that well, or that's not their strength?
Well, look, I don't want to,
Paint with such a big
disparage
brush.
my fellow brethren here. There's engineers are amazing people, and a lot of the things that we enjoy in our everyday life are because of engineers. So I don't want to disparage that. What I meant is there are some engineers that are quite technical and are amazing at, creating a bridge design or doing electrical designs. But to explain that to a common person who's not an engineer requires a different type of skill set. And that was something that my professors and my early job opportunities, my bosses always talked about, was that I had the ability to explain things in simple language. So if somebody wasn't an engineer or wasn't technical or wasn't this or wasn't that, that didn't matter. I was able to break it down into little bite-sized pieces and able to explain it. And look, I used that even in my sorority sisters at Lehigh who were taking calculus. They would come to me for tutoring because I could explain it in such a way that it made sense.
Hmm.
So it's just something that I'm grateful that I have that. Now, look, on the flip side, I am not as good at the electrical diagrams or the bridge design. So I always respected those technical skills. I'm somewhere in the middle where I can do enough of it. I can do enough of the quantitative, the analysis that I love, but I have the ability to explain it to, people who may not live that every day. That's what I meant by that.
Got it.
And look, I think you're talking about in today's environment, a lot of communication is digital and texting and social media and all that. It's just shifted to a different place.
Yeah, it really has, but it's amazing to me that, I don't care how technical and how much technology is able to do for us. It is, I think, the people who are able to, just like you said, explain things in a way that the person sitting across the desk or on the other side of a Zoom, that it makes it easy to understand. And I think it's just such an important talent to have. So before you arrived at the place that you're at now as SVP of the global supply chain for Aramark, can you tell us a little bit about your career progression?
Sure. So right out of Lehigh, I went into management consulting. Again, because of that, I'll call it broader skill set where I could do the analytical piece, could also communicate. And I just enjoyed working with people and solving business problems. So sort of a natural fit for consulting. So the consulting firms came, I interviewed with them, got a couple different job offers, and I accepted one with PricewaterhouseCoopers. So for the first 10 years of my career, I worked for them and had a really interesting time. I love consulting, especially as a younger person, didn't have a family back then. And I traveled the world, had all sorts of different clients, solved many different problems. Some of them were related to supply chain. Some of them were related to HR or M&A, a lot of strategy work, a lot of systems work. So it was perfect for me who enjoys a lot of variety, a lot of different projects, different places, glamorous travel, so I loved it.
So as we do this interview today, it is the morning after Israel's bombing of Iran. And I bring that up not to be political, but because of a couple of things that we've talked about already, problem solving and your experience moving around the globe, and now your current position of global supply chain. In your line of work, things that happen on the other side of the world can have an impact on your next week, your next month, your team's performance, the availability of supplies. So what's the kind of routine you have, or do you have a routine of checking what's going on around the world that night, waking up the next morning saying, what keeps you up at night? And what do you look for in the morning when you wake up? Because this morning, we got home from work yesterday and found out what was going on over in the Middle East. We wake up this morning, we found out a little bit more.
Yeah, it depends on what's going on and where. We don't have operations in the areas that are being affected by what happened yesterday, but we certainly have had plenty of situations when it did. So COVID, great example, because it impacted pretty much everybody. But things that were sourced from, China or other areas that were shut down, we definitely had to rethink our supply chain. The things that happened with Ukraine, which stopped some of the grain shipments and things like that, we had to work around that. So there's always something. Hurricanes here in the U.S. impact our operations. The floods in Spain. So all these terrible tragedies that affect people in the local sense certainly do impact our operations and our communities and our employees who work in those areas. So I'm always reading the news. I'm always looking. We're always reaching out to our team in the different parts of the world and making sure that we address how do we keep our employees safe? How do we make sure we're serving our clients? And how do we address these outside of our control events that impact our operations?
And do you, with your team, do you have, I'm not going to say drills, but do you have sessions where you work on contingency planning and in the event that if this happens, this is how we're going to react? I mean, is that part of your world?
Yeah, I think we have what we call business continuity plans. So, and we do use some redundancy in our supply chain for this very reason, where if this distributor is unable to serve, there's a distributor this week here in the US who had a big outage from a cybersecurity event. So what do? That's why we have multiple people that we have as backup or emergency to help out. And we're lucky that the distributors are friendly so that if one of our exclusives or our preferred is having a problem, that we can pick up with somebody else in that region until they get back on their feet. And we do ask our partners, our major partners, to make sure they have business continuity plans in place as well. So what happens if they're knocked out? And how do we respond and what do we do? Our risk team collects those plans and makes sure that we have those backups. But there's always something. John, I wish I could say that it doesn't happen very often, but it does.
So you guys operate in, I think, from what I read, 15 different countries. You have over 260,000 employees worldwide, which is amazing. And so how are you organized? How's your team organized? And how many people do you have as, direct or indirect reports to you that are considered on your team?
Yeah, we have several hundred employees all over the world. And you can think of us organized as one team that buys things, the sourcing aspect of it, but we serve multiple clients. And I'm talking client at the highest level. So Aramark is essentially a client. I am servicing Aramark and I'm servicing all of their clients and customers. So we'll have a Aramark as the channel. We'll have multiple, universities, parks, office buildings that are Aramark clients. And then there's customers in there, like a person working in an office building who walks up to an Aramark cafe to buy a cup of coffee. So there's several layers here that we think about as important voices in what we're doing. Then on the GPO side of the house, we have several clients, hotels, senior living facilities, theme parks, where, again, the same type of thing. Those are our clients within the GPO channel. Say Avenger International is one of our bigger GPO channels. And then those clients are servicing customers as well. Somebody who is a guest at the hotel. So we think in that lens on what are these products and services that these folks need as they're enjoying our client's accommodation. We're enjoying our client's location. So that's the way we're organized as a single point of purchase, but multiple points of client service. And so we have multiple GPOs that have programs put together. They have clients and customer support. So we go out to those locations, visit those locations. And then similarly on the Aramark side, the only difference is in Aramark, we actually have Aramark people on site that we're mostly talking to. On the GPO side, we're mostly talking directly to clients because it's not an outsourced service.
So how often is it with such an interesting construct? How often is it that you come across a situation where one group within your organization is not communicating or has not communicated with another group, and they're not really leveraging the spend leverage or using the spend leverage that they have collectively with a major supplier? And you need to, maybe not you, but someone in your senior organization has to step in and say, guys, we're both part of the same team. You're both doing business with the same supplier. You should be talking to each other and leveraging your collective spend.
Yeah, there's two ways I think that we've addressed that challenge, because certainly that's the whole point of doing this in the first place.
Right.
It's the whole point of having a single head of GPOs and the Aramark business is to make sure we're leveraging that spend, right? Two ways. One is we're pretty tightly connected. So the global team meets frequently. So every month we meet multiple times to talk about financials, operations, what's going on in these different regions. So we stay connected personally. I'll use those words. Then we have some help because, of course, there's billions of dollars flowing through. It's impossible for humans to keep track of it all. last year we made an investment in some AI technology using Palantir, which you may have heard of,
Sure.
AI firm. And we worked with them to more tightly couple our spend databases together. Not to get boring, but, we use the words like data harmonization and, things like that. But the whole point is, given that we're buying products through so many different countries, distributors, areas, these products may not look the same to us in our systems. You could have a product that is abbreviated in one country's system and it's spelled out in another country's system, and you wouldn't normally match those together as the same product. So what the AI allowed us to do was to find those products, match them, and say, hey, this is the same thing. So we're all tightly coupled personally. We're talking to each other. The system then says, hey, by the way, this is all the spend that you have with supplier X, and these are all the products you're buying. And it's harmonizing the data from all these disparate distributors, systems, et cetera. And it allowed us to really see better where we might be missing opportunities. And the same thing for our GPO clients. What are they buying, and how is that aligned with our contracts? How is that aligned where they might be missing an opportunity to be on a contract? And so we've used the AI in those two ways for our efficiency on sourcing. Then we also used it another way too, so that we can have prettier dashboards for clients and Aramark clients to look at. Hey, here's what you're spending. There might be certain things they're interested in. Maybe how many sustainable products do I buy, or how many vegetarian products do I buy, or in the data, the analytics and the better harmonization allows us to answer those questions better and in a prettier dashboard.
So the Avenger acquisition I thought was super interesting because, and for those who don't know about the Avenger acquisition, Avenger was, I'll call it a GPO and a consortium that was put together by like Marriott and Hilton, Hyatt, a bunch of the hotel chains, right? And then you guys acquired them in, I think, 2017, 18. So if you could, give it, I think our listeners and viewers would be interested in hearing the Avenger story and then how you sort of integrated it into the mothership.
Sure. I think, so part of my strategic work when I was on, leading the strategic development team at Aramark back, I guess it's been almost 15 years at the time, we identified that we needed to be deeper in the GPO space as a gap. Competitors had GPOs. We had one up in Canada, but we weren't really entrenched in the space like we should be. So we identified it as a strategic gap, went out and purchased and acquired several GPOs over the past, I'll say 10 plus years. Avendra was the biggest one that we acquired. It's in the hospitality space, so it's neatly aligned with Aramark's culture and fit. And there's some nice overlap in the types of products that are purchased with some of our premium lines in Aramark and some of the premium hospitality and luxury brands. And, there's just nice alignment there. So the luxury brands aligned with the premium accounts in Aramark, the more select service, I'll use those words, or, more economically oriented hotels aligned with other parts of Aramark. So there's some nice overlap on purchasing. And we were able to bring that back together in the back ends to better prices for all of our clients. So leveraging bigger scale, better pricing. So it was a very strategic acquisition and one that got us into the GPO space in a way that I think was necessary to really stay competitive with the bigger managed services competitors that we have in the space. Took us some time to integrate the back end completely. And as I said, we've just been doing some work on the technology side to make sure we're really completely integrated to see spend, not just with Avendra, but with all of our GPOs that we've purchased over the years as well, and all of our Aramark locations across multiple countries. So that's been a big initiative that we started 2-3 years ago, and it's really brought some nice value to the table for our clients, I think. And at an important time too. So, you're going through COVID when prices are, inflation is crazy.
Right.
So I think it's been an important time to have that happen.
In your time doing this, have you seen some categories that you never thought you'd be able to buy through a GPO that would be considered maybe a complex category, and you can today these goods or services are being bought through a GPO?
Yeah, I'll look at our local regional network. So Aramark always had a local regional network for, we just want to make sure we're giving to the communities where we're living and working in, right? So we've always had some local regional suppliers, and this is important to many clients as well, to make sure that you've got, your big nationals that are going to give you great economics, and then you also have some local regional network. The Avenger acquisition came with its own local regional network, because the hospitality clients have similar aspirations as the Aramark clients did. And when we put those together, it really gives some nice scale and some nice variety for those premium types of products that you're going to get from a local regional. The premium produce, the premium cuts of meat, the grass-fed beef, those types of things that I think we're really able to offer some nice breadth. And over the past several years, you've probably seen this in your own consumer behavior. This is important to customers as they're going places. They want to see certain types of, high quality products on their plate, even in places that may not have been deemed, luxury or premium. Consumers are expecting these types of high quality goods. So I think that was a really great win from both the GPO side and the Aramark side. And it's something that you may not think of in the typical GPO space. You may think, hey, the GPO is going to give me great prices on these national brands, and then I'm going to buy my own local regional. We've been able to crack that code because it's so important to our clients.
So in the hospitality space, being that it's a thread that runs through, almost the entire business, as we talked about before, how does that, what special challenges does that put on procurement in general versus, procurement being in the sourcing and procurement world or business for, let's say a manufacturer or something, but you guys are sourcing and you're buying food and whatever, a bunch of different things for some of the nicest hotels in the world, some of the best sporting venues in the world. What special challenges does that place on the work that you do?
I mean, the common thread is the guest experience. So whether you're at the stadium or you're at a hotel, it's the guest experience that matters. So that's common. It's just that guest experience is different when you're walking into a luxury hotel or when you're walking into the stadium. At the stadium, you want fun. There's certain products that you're expecting to be there. There's team spirit. There's merchandise that you're expecting to be there. You walk into the luxury hotel, you expect only the best food and beverage, only the best shampoos and lotions, only the best linens, towels, sheets. So the thread that's common is the guest experience. It is relative to where you are and what you're experiencing. So our Avenger GPO is heavily looking at that guest experience in these hotels or event spaces or golf clubs or spas or theme parks, that we're servicing as Avendra. What does it take to make the right guest experience given the location that you're in? And on the Aramark side, I'll continue with sports because that's one of, a fun one, right? So at that stadium, what makes that guest experience special with the team, the spirit, the products that are nostalgic? You want that hot dog, you want that, the popcorn, the things that you expect at the stadium. And consumers have changed their taste over the years. They expect more premiumness at the stadiums too. How do you have that high end, I'll take Philadelphia, that cheesesteak that really resonates, the high end pork sandwich, and it's regional too. Like if I'm in Boston, I'm going to expect a different set of nostalgic products than if I'm in, Philadelphia or
Pittsburgh,
Texas,
yeah.
right? Or Pittsburgh,
It's a hoagie out there.
Right. You have to align with what people are expecting and what delights them. We just, it's not just what they expect, it's what delights them. That's what we look for. How do we have guest experience that's excellent?
Yeah. So that's where I would anticipate you would go, and even further, I guess, and you probably would if we talked about it more. And that is, as you're talking to your team and you're building culture, I think one of the biggest messages, I'm guessing, right, that it's you got to know your client, and especially, if you're sourcing for Residence Inn, and I'm not don't like Marriott to get mad, but if you're sourcing for Residence Inn, it's different than sourcing for Ritz, and you got to know that. And everybody says it's not always about price, it's not always about lowest price, and that's every sourcing procurement person I talk to will say that, and it's not. I get it. There's service, there's consistency, there's all that, but in your world, you got such a vast variety of clients, and their expectations are going to be so different. And for your higher end clients, man, you've got to be it's not about price. It's really about quality. I mean, I think quality probably comes first with those guys.
Well, price is always important. I'll tell you that. Even for the most prestigious, luxurious brands, price always matters. But what we look to do is get the best price for the premium products that they expect. So we buy several levels of products. There's ultra premium, there's mid premium, there's moderate, and then there's economy for those people who just want the cheapest cost. And there's certain use cases where that matters as well. So we don't buy the same things for everybody. We buy different levels of premiumness depending on what the guest and the client expect. There certainly are price differences for those, but we still always, in the back of our minds, are price sensitive, must have the best price on that premium product.
When you guys get invited in to take a look at a business that they're considering Aramark to be their supplier, but also to be, much more than that when it comes to their sourcing and procurement. Are you guys the 9,000-pound gorilla that the in-house procurement guys get that scare the hell out of the in-house guys because they want to keep it and do it themselves? Or is that not the case with you guys?
I think it depends on the client, right? Some clients are looking for a partner who can get them better scale than they can achieve on their own. That's really the value proposition here. And some clients are focused on other things and they don't want to deal with food service or facilities management, et cetera. So I think it depends. In the GPO world, I think it's about leveraging scale and getting the right products for the best price, the best economics for the products and the tiers that they want. On the Aramark outsource side, it's, hey, I want a partner who can not just bring me that, which is the procurement scale, but also handle certain tasks that we're either focused on different things or we know somebody can do it better than we could do on our own. And we just want to outsource to you. And we tend to bring consistency, reliability, quality to the table in both propositions.
So which ones are more fun for you? The big football stadiums or, sports arenas, or the high-end, Ritz-Carltons of the world?
Well, look, I'm a high-end hotel enjoyer myself, right? So I can't say all the clients are interesting to me. They're all so different. There's the universities, the hospitals, the hotels, the theme parks, the parks. They're all so different. And I love the variety. You see the thread throughout my entire career. I love variety. And I think it also plays well in our world because we have to present that variety to our clients. And you can't just set it and forget it either. I can't say, okay, I've got the great premium chicken and the immediate chicken and all that, or I've got the prime steaks up here, because there'll be some innovation that'll happen the next week or the next month. So you have to keep up on it and keep refreshing and listening. Thick bacon is a great example. 10 years ago, I'm not sure I saw a piece of thick bacon anywhere. Right. Now it's all everybody serves, right? Brussels the applewood smoked, the cherry, the high end, and even in the more what I'll call economy sectors, I see this trickling down. Greek yogurt, all these trends that have evolved over the years, the plant-based milks, it just keeps coming. Like all the different things that you have to stay on top of to make sure that that customer, the one who's actually eating the food and enjoying the dining experience or enjoying the hotel experience, making sure that they are thrilled and delighted with what they see as they're in our client's brand.
Do you ever get involved in the sales process?
On the GPO side, yes. Okay. I'm responsible for our sales and retention of all of our clients on the GPO side. So I am, the leader of the sales organizations there, and I'm lucky to have such great sales teams. But look, we've got a lot of competition out there. It's fierce. So I stay very close to our biggest clients. I try to make sure that we understand what they need and listen to their needs. And if we're having a problem, I tell them, call my cell phone, text me, let me know how we can, if there's some issue, I am always available. It's that important.
I would imagine you enjoy being involved in the sales process, especially
variety, right? And I do like it. I mean, it adds a level of stress because you're on the other side. When you're procuring things, the suppliers have to impress us, right? And they have to do the right things to win the business. I'm playing the other side there on the sales side. So it does help to have both sides because then it makes me appreciate who I'm talking to across the table and what they're going through.
On the healthcare side, I know it's a big part of the business. It's a big part of everybody's life right now, and a big part of the discussion going on in Washington. Do you see sourcing procurement in the world of healthcare getting better or getting actually falling behind? And I say that having some exposure to it. My opinion is I think that world is far behind, and I think they have an interesting equation to solve because it's very hard for hospital networks to pass on costs, increase costs to their customers in the same way that a retailer can or a restaurant chain can. But what's your view about what's going on in the healthcare world as it relates to their supply chain?
Yeah, healthcare is undergoing a lot of changes. There's a lot of consolidation, M&A. There's some financial stress that had started with COVID and has trickled through, during the COVID days, and I don't want to relive them because they were certainly stressful. Everybody was scrambling to get PPE and masks and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad those days are over. But it's definitely left this overhang of some economic distress. And that's why you see some of the consolidation activity. So we're out there trying to make sure that we help our clients get through that. How do we provide economic value to them? How do we help them as they're going through challenging times? And it depends on who you are and what region of the country you're in and what level of client that you're serving. Some are more stressed than others. But that's what we look at is that's a very value-oriented part of the business. How do we make sure we're getting them the best price to help them with their economic needs? Again, aligned with the level of customer. There are some more premium versus surgery centers, things of that nature where people are expecting different levels of goods, but it's all about economics and quality and hygiene there too, consistency for those types of products in healthcare. It's a challenging space.
I'm going to finish with this. A young person coming into sourcing and procurement, maybe coming out of one of the programs that some of the great universities now have that they didn't have in years past. They join your organization. What is your advice to someone who's just starting out in this field, and especially if they're coming into a company like an Aramark?
Sure. I mean, look, it's a really exciting career opportunity, I think. And we tell our new hires that come on board every day, because every day we're really hiring, people right out of college, new entrants, et cetera. So it's just an exciting space. I mean, people may think, oh, well, you're writing contracts, you're talking to suppliers, you're getting good pricing, and it's very cut and dry. It's actually much more interesting than that. That is a very important piece of it. That economics really drives client value, but it's also about the analytics of keeping track of all this. The distribution piece, how are those products getting to where they need to go? How do we service our clients and make sure they get all the information they need about everything within the supply chain? There's a lot of reporting that's needed, up and down the chain. All the client interactions, all the interfacing with marketing on the guest experience, and making sure that presenting things in the right way, keeping our ear on the pulse of the chefs. So the chefs are a really important part of the client chain. If the chefs are not happy, nothing else happens, right? So all of this product selection that I talked about is really keeping those chefs in mind as well as those guests. So there's so many different aspects of it. It's really interesting and exciting. So I would just say that there's a lot of opportunities in this space, and it's a really exciting space and one that's growing. Everybody needs this.
So I lied. I'm going to ask one more question. How much emphasis would you put on the importance of understanding how to interpret data? Because I've heard that a lot from people who have your position in other companies, because we're so data dependent these days versus the way we used to be. And there's so much data coming at you that you can get lost in it. And so I've had a lot of folks say, today more than ever than when they started in the field, that understanding how to use data, identify good data and how to use it is just becomes so vitally important.
Absolutely. We liken supply chain, our team, the supply chain and GPOs team is really a data analytics organization. There's just so much data that it's impossible to keep track of it without using tools, analytics, back-end processing to handle all of it. And that's how we unlock value for clients. That's how we see all the spend to be able to have that conversation with the supplier. That's how we give our clients the information they're needing to give their bosses, their customers, whoever, the information on what they've spent, who's buying what, what's moving, what's not. And it also helps us in our back-end efficiency, where we're processing millions and millions of dollars of data every day, millions and millions of rows of data every day. And for us to be efficient without having an army of people just lined up doing things, we need to use data processing, analytics, and AI. The AI has been a game changer for us. The amount of output that we've been able to increase because of the AI tools has been phenomenal.
Well, listen, this has been a great, fascinating conversation. I wish we can go further, but I really enjoyed it. I want to thank you for joining us, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you so much, John. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And for all of our listeners and viewers, thank you very much. This has been Smarter Sourcing. My name is John Pavia, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.